Picture this. You're in a meeting and someone asks, "Any thoughts on this project?" The room goes quiet. Then that one person speaks up, not with answers, but with a simple question. What's working well so far? And what's one thing we could explore differently? Suddenly, the energy shifts. People lean forward. Ideas start flowing. And you're thinking, how did they do that? How did they get everyone engaged without being pushy or dominating? If you've ever felt like you need to prove yourself in conversations, or if you've watched others command respect simply by asking the right questions, you're not alone. Today, we're exploring something that changed how I approach every conversation: the power of strategic questions. I'm Tony, and I believe the right question at the right moment can transform not just a conversation, but a relationship, maybe even a career. See, most of us think influence means having all the answers. But what if I told you that thoughtful questions are actually the secret to building deeper connections and authentic presence in any room? Here's what happened to Sarah, a marketing manager who felt invisible in meetings. She'd prepare talking points, rehearse her ideas, but somehow always felt like she was fighting to be heard. Sound familiar? Then she discovered something that completely shifted her workplace influence. Instead of trying to impress with her knowledge, she started asking what I call strategic questions. Not just any questions, but the kind that make people think, wow, she really gets it. Within 3 months, her team started coming to her for advice. Her boss began including her in leadership discussions. And here's the beautiful part. She wasn't pushing or being aggressive. She was simply asking questions that helped others think more deeply. Today, I want to share the exact approach Sarah used, along with 3 other real stories that show how strategic questioning can transform your communication confidence and professional presence. Let's start with understanding what makes a question truly strategic. Because here's the thing, there's a world of difference between surface-level questions and the kind that create authentic connections. Think about the last time someone asked you, "How's your day going?" versus "What's been the most interesting part of your day so far?" Feel the difference? The first one gets a polite fine. The second one makes you pause and actually think. Strategic questions have 3 key characteristics. First, they're open-ended, they invite exploration, not just yes or no answers. Second, they show genuine curiosity about the other person's perspective. And third, they create space for deeper thinking. Let me tell you about Marcus, a software engineer who struggled with leadership presence. When problems arose in his team, he'd immediately jump to solutions. Why don't we try this approach? Or have you considered doing it this way? He meant well, but his team felt like he was micromanaging. His breakthrough came when he learned to ask what I call excavation questions. Instead of, "Why don't we try this?" he started asking, "What's been your experience with this type of challenge before?" Instead of giving answers, he was mining for insights. The results were remarkable. His team members felt heard, valued, and more engaged in finding solutions. Marcus discovered that strategic questions weren't just about gathering information, they were about building trust and showing respect for others' expertise. Here's what's fascinating from a psychology perspective. When we ask thoughtful questions, we trigger what researchers call cognitive activation. The person's brain literally lights up as they process and reflect. It's like giving someone the gift of being truly understood. But here's the part that surprised me most. Strategic questions don't just benefit the person answering, they position you as someone with emotional intelligence and leadership potential. When you ask questions that help others think more clearly, you become someone they want to work with. Now, let me share the story that really opened my eyes to this power. I was working with Elena, a project manager who felt overwhelmed trying to get her team aligned. Every meeting felt like pulling teeth. People were disengaged, and she was exhausted from trying to motivate everyone. Then she tried something different. Instead of opening meetings with updates and assignments, she started with what I call connection questions. Questions like, "What's energizing you most about this project right now?" Or, "Where do you see the biggest opportunity for impact?" The transformation was immediate. Team members who barely spoke up before were suddenly sharing insights. The meetings became collaborative instead of unidirectional. And Elena? She went from feeling like she was managing tasks to actually leading people. But here's what Elena discovered that goes beyond just workplace dynamics. These questions were changing her relationships outside of work too. When she asked her teenage son, "What made you feel most proud of yourself today?" instead of "How was school?" their conversations deepened. When she asked her partner, "What's one thing I could do to support you better this week?" their connection strengthened. Strategic questions, it turns out, are really about active listening made visible. They show that you're not just waiting for your turn to talk, you're genuinely interested in understanding. So what does this look like in practice? Let me give you some specific examples that you can use starting today. In team meetings, instead of "Any questions?" try, "What's one perspective we haven't considered yet?" Instead of "Is this clear?" ask, "What part of this resonates most with your experience?" For one-on-ones with team members, replace "How's everything going?" with "What's been your biggest learning this week?" or "Where do you feel most confident in your current role?" When giving feedback, instead of launching into what needs improvement, start with, "What's your take on how this project went?" or "What would you do differently if you could start over?" These aren't just communication techniques, they're relationship-building tools. They show that you value the other person's thoughts and experiences. But let me be honest with you about something. When I first started using strategic questions, I felt awkward. There were moments when I wondered if I was asking too much or being too probing. Maybe you're feeling that way right now, thinking, "This sounds great, but what if I come across as nosy or manipulative?" Here's what I learned. The intention behind the question matters more than the question itself. When you're genuinely curious and want to understand, people feel it. When you're trying to manipulate or control, they feel that too. The key is this balance I call interested, not intrusive. You're creating space for others to share, not demanding they open up. You're showing curiosity, not conducting an interrogation. I remember David, a team lead who was known for being brilliant but intimidating. People respected his expertise but felt uncomfortable around him. When he started incorporating strategic questions into his communication style, something beautiful happened. His team began to see him as approachable and thoughtful, not just smart. The question that changed everything for David was simple. "Help me understand your thinking on this." Instead of immediately correcting or redirecting, he was genuinely seeking to understand their perspective first. This small shift transformed how his team experienced him. Here's the science behind why this works so well. When someone feels heard and understood, their brain releases oxytocin, the same hormone associated with bonding and trust. Strategic questions literally create neurochemical connections between people. But there's an even deeper layer to this. Strategic questions can transform how you see yourself in conversations. Instead of feeling like you need to have all the answers, you become someone who helps others access their own wisdom. Think about the people in your life who you find most engaging to talk with. I bet they're good question askers. They make you feel interesting, heard, and valued. That's the kind of presence you can develop through strategic questioning. Let me share one more story that shows how powerful this can be. Jessica worked in sales, and she was struggling with a big client who seemed resistant to their proposal. Instead of pushing harder with more features and benefits, she tried a different approach. She asked, "What would success look like for you 6 months from now? And what's your biggest concern about moving forward?" These questions opened up a conversation that revealed the real issues, concerns that had nothing to do with their product but everything to do with internal company dynamics. By asking strategic questions, Jessica wasn't just selling a product anymore. She was helping the client think through their challenges. The result? Not only did she close the deal, but the client became one of their biggest advocates. This is what I mean by leading conversations without being pushy. Strategic questions create influence through understanding, not pressure. They build trust through curiosity, not control. Now, I want to give you a practical framework you can use immediately. I call it the listen more, ask better approach. For every statement you want to make, first ask a question that invites the other person to share their perspective. Instead of saying, I think we should change our approach, try asking, what's your sense of how our current approach is working? Instead of here's what we need to do, ask what do you think our next step should be? This doesn't mean you never share your thoughts or ideas. It means you create space for others to contribute first. You're not eliminating your voice, you're amplifying everyone's voice, including your own. The beautiful thing about strategic questions is that they work in any context. Whether you're leading a team meeting, having a difficult conversation with a colleague, or even navigating a challenging discussion with family, the principles remain the same. Show genuine curiosity. Create space for others to think and share. Listen with the intention to understand, not to respond. These simple shifts can transform your relationships and your influence. But here's what I want you to remember most. Strategic questions aren't about being perfect or having the right words every time. They're about showing up with genuine interest in others' perspectives and experiences. Some days you'll ask a question that sparks an amazing conversation. Other days you might feel like you're stumbling through. That's okay. The goal isn't perfection, it's connection. As we wrap up, let me leave you with this thought. In a world where everyone's trying to be heard, the people who learn to listen strategically become the ones others want to follow. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room or the person with all the answers. You just need to be someone who helps others think more deeply and feel more understood. So here's what I want you to try this week. Pick one relationship, maybe a team member, a friend, or even a family member. Instead of leading with your thoughts or advice, start with a strategic question. Ask something that shows you're genuinely curious about their experience or perspective. Notice what happens. Notice how they respond. Notice how you feel. And most importantly, notice how the quality of your connection deepens. Your homework, if you choose to accept it, is simple. Ask one strategic question today. Maybe it's what's been the most interesting part of your project so far, or what's one thing that's been on your mind lately. The right question at the right moment can open doors you didn't even know existed. It can turn a surface-level conversation into a meaningful connection. And it can position you as someone who doesn't just communicate, someone who truly connects. Leave me a comment and share one strategic question you're going to try this week. I genuinely want to hear how this works for you, and your experience might inspire someone else to take that first step. Remember, you're not trying to become someone else. You're simply learning to use questions as a bridge to deeper understanding and authentic influence. I'm Tony, and I believe your conversations are about to get a lot more interesting.